up, everyone? I'm Ruthina Porterfield, and this is Liberated Conversations with Ruthina. I am so excited about my feature episode because this feature conversation features a special conversation about making certain kinds of dreams come true, including mine. I'm going to be speaking with a woman who is helping me to bring a dream to reality that I have had for about 13 years now. So her name is Brittany Holmes Jackson. She is a best-selling author. She is a creative coach, a creative consultant. She also owns her self-publishing company. We're going to talk to her about a lot of that stuff, all the things that she does. And we're also going to be getting just a few tips from her about the specific industry of publishing and self-publishing, along with making my dream a reality. You guys, this is a conversation you don't want to miss, so join the conversation. Hello, Brittany. How are you?
I am amazing, Ruthina. How are you doing?
I am excited to have this conversation with you. I'm so
Yes,
grateful
absolutely.
that you
I'm
decided.
super excited.
I'm so grateful that you decided to do this. So I was referred to you by a past guest, Ashley Shepard, another best-selling author, Amazon best-selling author, and she sent me to you for a specific reason. I want you to talk about what it is that people come to you for. What are people sent to you for?
For sure. So I am a literary coach, literary legacy coach, self-proclaimed, because that is my passion and my purpose, is to help other aspiring and new authors establish a literary legacy through their book brands. And most people who desire to write a book have no idea where to start. And it is super important that it is done in the most professional way, because a lot of times self-published authors are stigmatized for not having the most professional looking products. So I do have clients who come to me because they don't know how to tell their story. They may not have the confidence to tell it. They may feel unqualified. But then once they do actually write the book, they struggle with the next steps. So they're not sure, it was already a big hurdle to write the book, to get beyond the mental and emotional barriers that might prevent one from writing their story. But then once it's done, there's not a lot of knowledge on what happens next. There's so many moving parts when it comes to publishing that a lot of authors get overwhelmed. I am one of many professionals in today's industry that will help you do the work yourself, or I will do it for you, depending on what your goals are and what your desires are. But essentially, we make sure that we put out excellent and quality products, but that our authors also understand what it means to be a book brand, an author brand, and not just kind of like a one hit wonder with a book, so to say.
Yeah. I like the term that you said, literary legacy, because that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to work specifically with you. Self-publishing definitely was not my first choice because of the stigma that is attached to it. And it tends to be a very difficult stigma to overcome if not pursued in the correct way. And so when I saw those two words, those terms, literary legacy, that made a significant difference in wanting to work with you. So can you talk about exactly what a literary legacy is?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to say I made up the phrase,
okay.
but it is something that I truly stand by and live by. I actually got the phrase from my own writing and publishing mentor and coach. But it's something that I grabbed onto really like expeditiously. Like I had to understand what this meant. And essentially, it's just like any other legacy, but it's one that can't be erased or demolished or demoralized because it's literally a tangible legacy. Many people strive to leave a legacy through maybe their businesses or through the words that they lived by or the works that they did in their life. But a lot of times those things are not printed in a book. So I always say, if you were to pass away today, tomorrow, what are you actually leaving behind that no one can say is not yours? No one can say it does not exist, or whatever they might be able to do to diminish that legacy. And a book is one of the only things that I can think of that can't be erased, can't be changed. It's there literally in living black and white color.
Right. What do you think? Why do you think so many people, and I almost think the answer is in it, but in the question, but why do you think so many people tend to why are people drawn to the self-publishing route versus the traditional publishing route? And it might be important to establish that traditional publishing just means going through one of the big name publishing companies, and maybe not even necessarily big names, but going through an agent, going through the query process, going through like what do you think draws people more so to the self-publishing route versus the traditional publishing route?
Right. So the first number one reason is the time frame to actually be published. That's number one. Number two is the ability to have creative control over your product. So let's start with number one. It can take years for a traditional publisher to even pick up your book. You have gone through the query process. You've gone on their website. You have submitted everything that they've asked for, but so has about 5,000 other people. And a lot of times, and this the acquisitions editor. So there are a lot of types of editors. The acquisitions editor is the one who receives the books that are submitted to the publishing house. They have to go through them manually, see if the requirements have been met. And if there's one little thing that does not meet that company's requirement, they might not even actually read your book. They may read the title and the synopsis that you put in your letter or your proposal. And if it doesn't fit whatever theme they have going on for that season, if it doesn't fit their overall company values or what have you, they will throw it out, and they won't tell you that they've thrown it out. So you submitted all of this stuff to a company, you may never hear from them, and it just takes so long. If you were to be picked up by them, that can still easily take months, years, depending on their publication calendar or schedule. So when you're thinking about people who take years to write their book, most don't want to wait another few months or years to get it published. So self-publishing allows people to publish their books within days or weeks, preferably months if it's done correctly. I know I have a very I have a different viewpoint when it comes to what's happening in the industry right now and how quickly individuals are being published by various literary coaches. And I always say to each their own, but I always encourage a good 3 to 6 months to allow your book to not just be published, but to also gear up with a marketing plan as well. I mentioned a number two reason. And that's creative control and ownership over your work. A traditional publisher owns the rights to your book. You have poured your heart and soul into a book. You give it to them. And that contract that they give to you with that $10,000 advance bonus that looks really amazing and makes you not read that contract. They own every aspect of your book. The ebook, the audiobook, The hardback book, the paperback book. Oh, I decided that
Wow.
I wanted to change or add something. Okay, so we still own the rights to any subsequent reprints or revisions to your book.
Yeah.
They own
Yeah.
the cover image to your book. They own,
Isn't that something?
if someone wants to turn your book into a movie, they don't come to you. They have to go to the publisher.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and myself included, because I have been traditionally published in the past, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, because that is how I broke into the literary industry. But after a few books and realizing that I'm not getting paid, looking back on my books, and my first book was released in 2007, so we're coming up on 25 years of being a published author. I can't release that book as like a commemorative anniversary edition. I don't have the rights to any of that. So people want to have ownership over their work, and you know, with considerable fairness, like that is exactly what you should have.
Right. It's so funny. I'm also an actress, and I work in the entertainment industry, and I sometimes consider the literary, especially when I first started going through the traditional route before COVID, it felt the same way as auditions and going into that writer's room and listening to them throw all this stuff, and then reading the paperwork and them saying, okay, but you don't own this, and you don't have rights to this. And it's just what you said, is the query process is very similar to the audition process, where you go in and you pour your heart, all this work that you put into this character for this 2 minutes of someone judging you on this 2 minutes of what you've given. Same thing, you put all your work into this book, and then you write this little 1-page email, and everything is judged off of that email, and you may never hear from these people again. It is so similar. It is very, very similar. What do you think? And you talked about this a little bit, about some of the bigger mistakes that people make when it comes to self-publishing, and it sounds like time frame is the biggest, biggest thing. I think this whole microwave society, this, and then the excitement and the eagerness of getting something out probably affects what it is, how fast people want to get it out. Why do you really, really stress the expanding your time frame when it comes to getting your work out there?
Yeah, so I think you actually mentioned it or said something a little bit earlier, where it's about not wanting your book to come out looking as if you made it in your basement.
Yes.
For lack of better phrases. We don't want it to look like a self-published book. Consider the fact that the goal is for your book to stand up against other books that are traditionally published or professionally published, even though they may not be traditionally published, in Barnes and Noble, on Amazon. Considering that when people look up your book, other books will also pop up, and you want yours to be the one to stand out. Or if they're looking up the topic on which your book is focused on, you absolutely want it to stand out and not for anything negative. So the biggest thing about the time frame is that you want to give yourself time to actually make mistakes and say, oh, wow, this is not exactly what I wanted, especially when you consider things like your cover design. If you're writing a book that has illustrations or includes images, those images have to look a certain way to print. They have to look a certain way on your computer to actually print in a quality that is becoming of a published book. So a lot of times, especially when you're using self-published platforms like Amazon KDP or Ingram Spark or even Barnes and Noble, I believe they also have a platform on which you can self-publish and get your book published, but also have it be printed on demand. You want to ensure that they're not coming back to you saying that your images are low quality, low resolution, and you have no idea what that means, because you just kind of copied and pasted pictures and put them into your book. You copied and pasted them from the internet, which can be copyright infringement. Just because you can Google an
Wow.
image, say I'm writing a book and I just want to put a star, just something as simple as a star on the page of my book, and you Google images of stars and you find one that you like, and you just copy and paste it and put it in the book, someone can sue you for that if they come across your book and see that their image has been used without permission or payment. So there are a lot of
Right.
things that I do think people go into self-publishing not knowing, especially when it comes to copyright infringement, having quality printed materials for your book. And then there's a
Yeah.
thing of not considering what marketing looks like. What does it look like
Yeah.
to actually let people know that I'm writing a book?
Right.
Or am I just going to pop up and say, hey, y'all, here's my book? You know, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it can hinder you actually achieving the goals that you desire to achieve with your book launch.
Yeah, there are so many legal ramifications to consider. There are so many marketing choices to make. There's so much to it. And I think it just depends, I guess personally, someone on the outside of the literary industry, right? I think it depends on what your goals are for your book.
Absolutely.
And if your goals are just to get this thing out into the world and give to your friends and family, and whatever happens as a result of that, hallelujah, then your plans are going to look different from someone who wants to make a something that's going to reach the masses.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think all of that goes into that. So what is it that your company does to assist in that process? What are the services that you provide to assist in that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brittany Holmes Jackson & Co., my literary agency, I call it a literary agency because we actually are not publishers. We do assist in the self-publishing process. So I want to make that clear because there's a lot of misconceptions surrounding who's a publisher and who's not when it comes to this industry as well.
Let's make that clear, please.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are companies that offer self-publishing services like mine, but are not considered publishers simply because we may offer other things in regards to coaching, consulting. We also, depending on what you're looking for, we also we refrain from taking ownership of your work. So you have what's called traditional publishers, which we kind of touched on earlier. Those are your Simon and Schuster's, your Harlequin books, your Random House, Penguin Random House, excuse me. Thank you. Tongue-tied there. So those are like your major publishers who monopolize the industry overall, especially when it comes to being traditionally published. That means they take your book, they own the rights to your book, they give you a certain amount of money that they eventually have to make back through your book sales, and they can even send you on like promotional tours. They give you marketing materials. They don't necessarily coach you in marketing, but you could have an agent. There's a lot of things that they do offer. But then you have what are called hybrid publishers, which if I were a publishing house, that is what I would consider BHJ & Co. to be if we were a publishing house. Hybrid publishers do a lot of what traditional publishers do without retaining the rights to your book. At most, they may own your ISBN number. And what that means is when the barcode of your book is scanned, that particular publishing house's name will pop up versus your company name, which is what self-published authors will normally put their ISBN under. Everything else about the process is generally considered self-publishing because you do own the rights to your work. all of the completed and finished products that come along with your book being printed, you own those. You get the final cover, you get the edited layout of your book, you get the ebook if that was set up for you, and you also have access to whatever platform on which your book is being distributed. So that might look like your own Amazon KDP account, your own Ingram Spark account, or what have you, and you retain all royalties. So when people purchase your books from whatever platform they are being housed on, you get the money for that, not your publishing company. So just want to be clear about that. The only thing that some hybrid publishers retain ownership of is the ISBN number, so that they can receive credit for having published your book, and that they get nothing else. You typically pay like a lump sum of money for them to do all of the work for you, and that's it, because they don't get any residual income, royalties, or anything of that nature once the book comes out. And then you have your self-publishers, who are literally self-publishing consultants who will self-publish for you. They do everything that hybrid publishers do, but they will put the ISBN number in your name. And this is what that's the smallest discrepancy that some people have between hybrid publishers and self-publishing consultants. That ISBN number, some people really desire that ISBN number to be in their name to show, because that is kind of like the marker that you are self-published, but the true marker is that you actually own all of the rights and royalties to your book. However, most people won't realize that if your ISBN scans under a different company name than your own. So I always encourage authors, especially those who are new to the industry, to be well versed and to ask questions when you are looking for a self-publisher. I know with BHJ & Co, we are very upfront that when we help you set up your book and everything, you own the rights to everything, that we finalize all of the final products, all of the final platforms. The only thing we do put our name on is the actual ISBN number and barcode, so that when people scan your book, they can see that BHJ & Co published it for you. But otherwise, you want to ask those questions, because a lot of people go into places and spaces believing that they are getting certain specific self-publishing services, and when they don't, they're very confused. Or sometimes there are people who have kind of played you, and those are what I would consider vanity press companies, and they will kind of take any and everybody. There's no vetting process, which I believe you experienced, Ruthina, where you were referred to me. I gave you a client, I gave you a client form to kind of fill out, an intake form to just make sure that we would be a right fit. Vanity press publishers do not do those things. They will publish any and everybody, and they will also take your money up front to publish you, but then they will also keep parts of your revenue. And if you don't read your contract carefully, you will have purchased self-publishing services and not actually be self-published, because you don't own your final files, you don't own the ISBN either, and they're taking money from the back office because you didn't get access to your self-published platform or your print-on-demand platform, your Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, or what have you. So I think that is the gist of the differences between what it means to be traditionally published, hybrid, vanity press. Like, there's a lot. So you just want to really make sure that you are privy to all of the differences there. This started off with a question, but I'm not sure how to rewrite it.
Exactly you provided, but you answered that question you did answer that question. Before I even got to you, before I even met Ashley, who referred me to you from my episode a couple of episodes ago, which I encourage everyone to go back and listen to, because we talk about Ashley's book. her food and her fasting, food and faith journal, which was an awesome resource. Definitely go check out that episode after the fast. But before I even got to her, I had started researching self-publishing companies and was coming across a lot of vanity press. And once I looked at the numbers that they were presenting, I was like, something doesn't seem right here,
Right.
So it was definitely a blessing to be led to you, who is going to be working with me on my very first memoir to be dropped in August. So I'm super excited about that. Brittany, where can everyone find you?
Of course. So I am the Brittany J Way. So that is TheBrittney on Instagram and Facebook. If you're on platforms like Clubhouse or Twitter, just drop the THE. I could only fit a certain amount of characters on those platforms, and it's just Brittany J Way there. You can also look me up on my website, BrittanyHolmesJackson.com. And that's pretty much it on anywhere you want to find me. You might be able to just Google my name and I will randomly pop up in some form or fashion.
Well, I am looking forward to working with you. I'm really excited. I have to thank you for asking a lot of questions, because we haven't even really started our process, and I think I have inundated you with about 8,000 questions.
And I am okay with that. I'm here for all the questions. I need you to be very clear on what's happening, so I love it.
So I really appreciate it. Brittany, thank you so much for taking this little bit of time with me, because I know you're super busy. I really encourage people to check her out on Facebook, because her group is such a vital resource, and she provides so much information that you will want to work with her. You will want to work with Brittany Holmes Jackson because of all of the information that she provides, just out of the kindness of her heart, on Facebook and on Instagram. So once again, Brittany, thank you so much. If you can hang out for just a second.
Of course.
Thank you. So you guys, you just met the person who is going to be helping me publish my first memoir. You are getting kind of the soft announcement. I'm going to be making the official announcement next week on March 17th, which is the day that this particular episode premieres on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. So look out for that. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, check me out, of course, on my website at ruthinaporterfield.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram at RA Porterfield. All of that information will be there. And when you go to my website, you'll actually be able to sign up to find out more information about the book and get all of those updates. With all of that said, thank you again for watching. Peace, stay cool, and God bless.